तो आज मैं ये पढ़ूंगा इंडियन पॉलिटी एंड कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन। The term the political science is the intermediate related to the world politics, which itself is the derived from the Greek word polis. That means city state, the general form of the political organization in the ancient Greece. What is the term of the politics? Indian Constitution and the Indian Polity and Constitution. The term the political science is the immediately related to the world politics, which itself is the derived from the Greek word polis. That means city state as a general form of the political organization in ancient Greece. The sophist, the one distinct teaching of the wisdom, particularly Portuguese and the Georgians in the Athens were the first to expound the political theory. Later on, the Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle continued to conduct the scientific study of the various problems concerning the state and the government. Aristotle, the world famous Greek philosopher, however, the excellent is the teacher Plato and he is the teacher Socrates. Now Aristotle is regarded as the father of the science of the politics in the West, while the Manu is considered to be the first political thinker of the Indian. Is the famous book Manusmriti is regarded as the first book of the law in India. Later on, it was the Kautilya Sanika was who formed and formulated thinking and gave it a concrete form in the shape of the book named Arthashastra, a well-known book of the Indian polity. In his the famous book Politics, Aristotle has asserted man is by nature a political animal, and he who by nature and not by mere accident. Mere accident is whether the state is the either above the humanity or below it. Republic of India. India, a union of states, is the sovereign socialist secular democratic republic with the parliamentary system of government. The republic is the government is the term of the constitution, which was adopted by the Constitutional Assembly on November 26, 1949 and came into the force on the January 26, 1950. The Constitution, who is the anniversary's parliament form of the government, is the federal in the itself with unitary treatise. The President of India is the constitutional head of the executive of the Union. Article 74A 74(1) of the Constitution provides that there shall be a council of the minister, with the Prime Minister as it is the to the aid and the advise the President who shall who share in the exercise of his the function. Act is the accordance with such the advice. The real executive power thus vests in the Council of the Minister with the Prime Minister as it is head. The Council of the Minister is the collectivity responsibility of the House of the People, the Lok Sabha. The House of the People is Lok Sabha. Similarly, in instead the governor is the head of executive, but it is the council of minister with the chief minister as it is hand, in whom real executive powers vest. The council of minister of the state is the collectivity responsible to the legislative assembly of the state. The constitution distributes legislative power between the parliament and state legislative and provide from the visiting of the residual powers in the parliament. The power to the end the constitution also vests in parliament. The constitution has the provision for the independence of the judiciary, comptroller and the auditor general, public service commission and the chief election commission. Government of India, country name Republic of India, Bharat Ganarajya. Government types: the sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic with a parliament system of government. Capital New Delhi. Administrative division: 28 state and the 8 union territories. Independent: 15 August 1947 from the British colonial rule. Constitution: the Constitution of India came into the force on the 26th January 1950. Legal system: the Constitution of the India is the fountain source of the legal system in the country. Executive branch: the President of the Indian is the head of the state, while the Prime Minister is the head of the government and the run office with the support of the Council of the Minister who form the Cabinet Ministry. Legislative branch: the Indian legislative comprised of the Lok Sabha, House of the People and the Rajya Sabha, Council of State, forming both of the House of the Parliament. Judicial branch: the Supreme Court of India is the apex body of the Indian legal system, following by the other High Court and the subordinate court. Flag distribution: the national flag is the horizontal tricolor of deep saffron cassia at the top. White is the middle and the dark green at the bottom in the equal proportion at the center of the white band in the navy blue wheel, which is the representation of the Ashoka Chakra at Saranath. National Day: 26 January Republic Day and 15 August Independence Day and 2 October Gandhi Jayanti, Mahatma Gandhi birthday. Constitution. What is the Constitution? The Constitution is the foundational law. Constitution is the foundational law. Constitution is the foundational law of the country which ordain the fundamental principle of which the government or the governance of that the country is based. It lays down the framework and the principal function of the various organs of the government as well as the modalities of the interaction between the government and its citizen, with the exhibition of the United Kingdom UK, almost all the democratic country possess the written constitution, and it also possessed an elaborate written constitution which was enacted by the Constitutional Assembly specifically set up for the purpose. Evolution of the Constitution. Our Constitution. Our present Constitution, the first Constitution of India, framed and given to themselves by the people of India, was adopted by the Constitutional Assembly on 26 November 1949. It came into the full operation with the effect from the 26 January 1950. The Constitution, as the originally adopted, had the 22 part 395 article and the 8 schedule. It is the present text is the M from to time. All through the system of the ancient Indian book have there the reflection in the Constitution of India. The direct sources of the Constitution lie in the administrative and the legislative development of the British period. A consist and a chronological description of the act, a document and the event that uh, culminate the framing of the world's largest written constitution in the year. World largest constitution. This is the Indian Constitution. Administrative and the legislative reform. Before 1857. Regulating Act of Regulating Act and 1773. This act was based on the report of the committee headed by the British Prime Minister Lord North. Governance of the East India Company was put under the British parliamentary control. The governor of the Bengal was nominated as the Governor General for all the three presidencies of Calcutta, Bombay and Madras. This is the three presidencies. This is the first was the Kolkata, Bombay and Madras. The Warren Hastings was the first Governor General. The Warren Hastings is the first Governor General. Under this act, a Supreme Court was established in Kolkata, now the Kolkata in the 1774. A Supreme Court was established in the Kolkata, now 1774. Sir Elijah Impey was the first Chief Justice. Other the three judges were the Chambers, Leominster, and the Hyde. Governor General was the emperor to make rules, regulation, and the ordinance with the consent of the Supreme Court. Governor General was the emperor to make the rules, regulation, and the ordinance with the consent of the Supreme Court. Peace Indian Act 1784. It was It was enacted to the improve upon the provision of the Regulating Act of the 1773 to the bring the about better discipline in the company system of the administration. A six-member board of the control was set up, which was headed by the minister of the British government. All political responsibility were given to his board. Trade and the commerce related issue were under the purview of the court of the director of the company. Provision had to follow the instruction of the central government, and Governor General was the empowered to dismiss the failing provincial government. Charter Act of the 1793. The first Charter Act is 1793. Main provision of the previous act was consulted in this act. Provided for the payment of the salaries of the member of the board of the controllers from the Indian Revenue. The court were given the power to the interpret rules and the regulation. Charter Act of the 1813. Trade monopoly of the East Indian Company came to an end. Power of the three councils of Madras, Bombay and the Calcutta were the inaugurate. They were also the subject to the greater control of the British Parliament. The Christian missionary were the allowed to the spread their religion in India. The Second Charter Act in the 1813. The trade monopoly of the East Indian Company came to end. The power of the three councils of Madras, Bombay and the Calcutta were inaugurated. They were also the subject to the greater control over British Parliament. The Christian missionaries were allowed to spread their religion in India. Local autonomous bodies were empowered to levy tax. Charter Act of the 1833. The Charter Act 1833, which was enacted by the British Parliament, provide for the establishment of the law commission for the consultation and the codification of Indian law. In the 1835, the Lord Macaulay was appointed as chairman on the first law commission. Sir James Stephen was appointed as a law member in place of the Lord Macaulay. Syllabus system in India was declared illegal through this the Charter Act and was abolished in the 1843. The Governor General and his council were given vast power. This council could legislate for the whole of Indian subject to the approval of the Board of Controllers. The council got full the power regarding revenue, and a single budget for the country was prepared by the Governor General. The East India Company was reduced to and the administrative and the political entity, and the several lord and the minister were nominated as ex officio member and the board of controller. For the first time, the Governor General government was known as the Government of India, and his Council as the Indian Council. Charter Act of the 1853. This was the last of the Charter Act and it met the important sense in the system of the Indian legislation. This act will follow the report of the people of then the Governor General Dalhouse for the improving the administration of the company. A separate government of the Bengal was to be the appointed. Legislative and the administrative function of the council were then separately identified. Recruitment of the company employees was to be done through on the competitive exam. British Parliament was the emperor to put the company's government of the Indian to an in at any suitable times. Administ- Administrative and the legislative reform after the 1857. Government of Indian Act 1858. British Crown the decision to the assume the sovereignty over Indian from the East India Company in the apparent consequence of the revolt of 1857, described as an armed Sipahi mutiny by the British historian and remembered as the first war of independence by the Indians. The first is the first is the first is for the governor of India under the direct rule of the British government was the Government of Indian Act 1858. It provides for the absolute British imperial control over India within but without any the popular participation in the administration of the country. The power of the crown. The power of the crown were to be the exercised by the Secretary of an State for the Indian, exercised by the Council of the 15 members, known as the Council of India. The country was divided into the province headed by the government of the lieutenant governor headed by the executive council. The provincial government had to the function under the superior direction and the control of the governor general in all matters. All the authority for the governance of India was vested in the governor general in council, who was responsible to the secretary of state. The secretary of the state was ultimately responsible to the British Parliament. Indian Council Act 1861. This is the important landmark in the constitutional history of India. By this act, the power of the crown were to be exercised by the Secretary of the State for India. Exercised by the Council of 15 members known as the Council of India. The Secretary of the State, who was responsible to the British Parliament, government India through the Governor General assisted by a executive council. This act enabled the government general to the associate representatives of the Indian people with the work of the legislation by nominating them to his the Aspirant council. This act provide that the governor general executive council should include the certain additional non-official member also with the tra- uh, transiting legislative businesses as the legislative council, but this legislative council was neither representative nor deliberate in any sense. It decentralized the legislative powers of the Governor General Council and the vested them in the government of Bombay and Madras. Indian Council Act 1892. The non-official member of the Indian Legislative Council were to be nominated by the Bengal Chamber of the Commerce and the Provincial Legislative Council, who the non-official member of the Provincial Council were to be nominated by the certain local bodies such as the universities, district board and municipalities and jomidars extra. The council were to have the power of the discussing the budget and the addressing question to the executive. Morley Minto Reform and the Indian Council Act 1909. Recommended by the Secretaries of State for India, Lord Morley, and the Viceroy Lord Minto were implemented by the Indian Council Act 1909. The maximum number of the additional member of the Indian Legislative Council, Governor General Council, was recessed from the 16 under the article of the 1892 or to the 60, excluding the executive councillor. The provide for the first time for the association of the Indians with the executive council of the Viceroy and the governor. Satyendra Bose Sinha became the first Indian to join the Viceroy executive council. He was appointed as a law member. It also provide for the separate responsive representation of the presidency of corporation, chamber of the commerce, universities, jomidars, Sikh, India, Pakistan, Anglo-Indian and Europeans. The size of the provincial legislative council was enlarged by the including elected non-official members so that the official majority was gone, and the element of the election was also introduced in the legislative council at the center also, but here the official majority was maintained. The legislative council was empowered to move the resolution on the budgets and on any matter of public interest except the certain specified subject such as the armed forces, foreign affairs and the Indian state. It provides for the first time for the separate representation of the Muslim community, and thus the act that legalist the communalists, and the Lord Minto came to be known as the father of the communal electorate. The government of the Indian Act 1915. This act was the passes the consolidated the provision of the preceding Government of Indian Act. Montagu claims for reform and the Government of Indian Act 1999. The Secretary of the State for the Indian, Mr. E. S. Montagu, and the Government General Lord Chelmsford formulated the proposal for the Government of Indian Act 1999. It is the create in the new officio of the High Commissioner for Indian in London and the transfer to him some of the function uh, hitherto performed by the Secretary of State for India. It provides for the establishment of the Public Service Commission. Hence, the Central Public Service Commission was sent up in the 1926 for the recruiting civil servant. Responsible government in the provision was to the introduce without the impairing the responsibility of responsible government function of the Public Service Commission at the 1926 recruiting the civil servant. Responsible government in the provincial was to be the introduced without the impairing the responsible of the governor through the government generate for the administration of the province by the resorting to the device known as the Drasa or the dual government. This act provide voting right to the Indian women for the first time. David Lloyd George was then the Prime Minister of England. The subject of the administration were to the divided into categories central and the provincial. The sub the subject of the administration of the two categories and the central and the provincial. Central subject were the whose where the exclusively kept under the control of the central government. The provincial subject were the sub divided into the transferred and the reserved subject. The transfer subject were to be administered by the governor with the aid of the minister responsible to the legislative council in which the proportion of the elected member was raised to the 70%. The reserved subject were to be administered by the government and his the executive council with no responsibility to the legislature. The previous central control over the presidency in the administrative, legislative and the financial matter was the relaxed. Source of the revenue were the divided into categories so that the provincial could run the administration with the revenue raised by the provincials themselves. The provincial budget was the separate from the central budget. The provincial legislature was the employed to the present. It is the own budget and the levy. It is the own tax relating to the provincial sources of the revenue. The central legislature retained power to the legislate for the whole country on over the subject. The control of the Governor General over the provincial legislation was retained by the providing that the provincial bill, even those the assented to by the governor would become law only when the assented to also by the Governor General. The governor was the emperor to the reserve the bill for the consideration of the governors general if it was related to some the specified matter. The Governor General in the Council continue to remain the responsible only to the British Parliament through the Secretary of the State for India. The Indian legislature was made for the representative and for the first time by chemical. Lionel Curtis was the British official and the author. His ideas that concerning the Arsenal were the important in the development of the government of Indian Act 1999. And he is the writing the influence the evolution of the Commonwealth of Nation. The upper house was named of the Council of State. The upper house was named the Council of State. This was the composed of 60 members of whom the 34 were elected. The lower house was named as Legislative Assembly. The lower house is the lower house was the name as the Legislative Assembly. This was a composed of about 144 members of whom 104 were elected. The electorate were the arranged on the communal and the sectional base, the developing the morale minto divided federal. The Governor General of overriding power in that of central legislation were the retained as follows. His the prior sanction was the required to the introduce bill relating to the central matters. He had the power to the veto or the reserve for the consideration of the crown any bill passed by the Indian legislature. He had the conference power of the certifying bill or any grant refused by the legislature. We could make the ordinance in case of emergency. Shimon Commission. This commission headed by the Sir John Shimon constituted in the 1927 to the inquire into the working of the Act of the 1919. The place it is the report in the 1930. The report was the examined by the British Parliament and the Government of India. A bill was draft accordingly. The Government of Indian Act 1935. It was the lengthy and the detailed document having the 321 sections and the 10 schedules. The Act of the 1935 the prescribed a the federation taking the province and the Indian state, native state as unit. It was the opinion for the Indian state to join the federation, and the since they never joined the federation, never came into the being. The act the separate Burma from the Indian and the two new provinces of Orissa and the Sindh were created. The act the divided legislative power between the central and the provinces. The executive authority of the provinces was also the exercises by the governor on behalf of the crown and not as the subordinate of the governor general. The governor was required to act with the advice advice of the minister responsible to the legislature. In the certain matter, the governor was required to act in his discretion without the ministerial advice and under the control and the direction of the governors general and through him of the Secretary of State. The executive authority of the center was vested in the Governor General on behalf of the Crown. Councillor of the Council of Ministers responsible to the legislature was not appointed or through such the provision existed in the Act of the 1935. The central legislature was the bicameral consisting of the Federal Assembly and the Council of State. In the six provinces, the legislative was the bicameral comprising and the Legislative Assembly and the Legislative Council in the other the provinces, the legislative was the unicameral. Apart from the government general power of the veto, a bill passed by the central legislature was also subject to the veto by the Crown. The Governor General could prevent discussion in the legislature and suspend the proceeding on any bills if he was satisfied that it would affect the discharge of his special responsibilities. The Governor General had the independent power of the legislation concurrently with those of the legislature. On some the subject, no bills or the amendment could be introduced in the legislature without the Governor General previous sanction. This the four division in the Act of the 1935. There was the federal list over which the federal legislative had the exclusive power of the legislation. There was the provincial list of matter over which the provincial legislature had the exclusive jurisdiction. There was the concurrent list also over which both the federal and the provincial legislative and the legislature had the competence. The Governor General was the emperor to authorities either the federal or the provincial legislature to enact the law with respect to any matter which was not enumerated in the above not legislative list. Dominion status, which was promised by the Simon Commission in the 1929, was not conferred by the Government of Indian Act 1935. Cripps Mission. In March 1942, Sir Stafford Cripps, a member of the British cabinet, came with the draft declaration on the proposal of the British government. These proposals were to be adopted at the end of the Second World War. The provide the Congress and the Muslim leagues would accept them. According to the proposal, the constitution of the Indian was to be framed by and the elected Constitutional Assembly by the Indian people. The constitution should give the Indian dominion status. There should be one Indian Union comprising all the provinces and Indian states. Any province or the Indian state not accepting the constitution would be free to the constitutional position existing at that times, and with the such non-according provinces, British government could enter into the separate constitutional agreement. Cabinet Mission Plan. In March 1946, Lord Attlee sent the cabinet mission to the Indian, consisting of this the cabinet minister, namely Lord Patrick Lawrence, Sir Stafford Cripps, and the Mr. A. V. Alexander. The object of the mission was to the help Indian Isip Indian Isip. It is the independent as the yearly as a possible, and to send up in the Constituent Assembly. The cabinet mission rejected the claim for the separate Constituent Assembly and a separate state for the Muslim. According to the cabinet mission plan, there was to be the Union of India, comprising both the British Indian and the state, and the having jurisdiction over the subject of the foreign affairs, defense, and the communication. All the residuary power were to be the best in the province and the state. The union was to have the executive and the legislature consisting of the representatives of the province and the state. Any decision involving the major communal issue in the legislature was to the require the majority support of the representatives of the east of the two major committees present, and the voting, as well as the majority of all the members present and voting. The provincial court from the groups with executives and the legislative, and is the groups could be the complete to the determine the provincial subject. The Mountbatten Plan. The plan for the transfer of the power to the Indians and the partition of the country was the laid down in the Mountbatten Plan. It was the given the prominent the share by the statement made by the British government on the 3rd June 1947. The Indian Independence Act 1947 of the British Parliament. In the pursuance of this act, the government of the Indian Act 1935 was the amended by the adaptation orders both in the Indian and the Pakistan for the setting up in the interim constitute assembly to the draw of the future constitution of the country. Interim government September 2, 1946. As per the proposal of the cabinet minister in the 1945, Jawaharlal Nehru, Vice President of the Council External Affairs and the Commonwealth Relations, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, Home Information and the Broadcasting, Dr. Rajendra Prasad, Food and Agriculture, Dr. John Mathi, Industries and the Supplies, Jagbiban Ram, Labor, Sardar Vallabh Dev Singh, Defense, C.S. Bhabha, Works, Minds and Power. Liquid Ali Khan, Finance. Abdul Rab Nishatar, Ports and Air. Asaf Ali, Railway and Transport. C. Raja Gopal Asaria, Education and Art. I. Chandragir, Commerce. Gazamfar Ali Khan, Health. Jadindranath Mondal, Law. First Cabinet of the Independent India 1947. Jawaharlal Nehru, Prime Minister, External Affairs and the Commonwealth Relations and the Scientific Research. Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, Home, Information and the Broadcasting States. Dr. Rajendra Prasad, Food and Agriculture. Maulana Abul Kalam Azad, Education. Dr. John Mathia, Railway and Transport. R.K. Sangmugam, Secretary, Finance. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, Law. Jagjivan Ram, Labor and the Sardar Baldev Singh, Defense. Rajkumari Amrit Kaur, Health. C.S. Haba, Commerce and the Rafi Ali Kidwari, Communication and the Dr. Shyama Parsad Mukherjee, Industrial and the Supplies. He and Gadgil, Work, Mines and Power. From the 15th August 1947, Indians ceased to be in the dependency and the suzerainty of the British Crown over the Indian states and the treaty relation with tribal areas the lapsed from that in the referendum held on the 6th July 1947, Sylhet, Assam had then decided to join the province of the East Bengal to be a part of the new country Pakistan. The office of the Secretary of the State for the Indian was the abolished. The Governor General and the Governor lost extraordinary power of the legislation or to the compete with the legislature. The Central Legislature of India, composed of the Legislative Assembly, Assembly and the Council of the State Session to the exist of the August 14, 1947. The Constituent Assembly itself was to the function also as the central legislative with the complete sovereignty. The Constituent Assembly and making of the Constitution. The Cabinet Mission. The Cabinet Mission initiated the establishment of the Constituent Assembly to the frame the Constitution for the country. Member of the Constituent Assembly were elected by the Provincial Legislative Assembly. Is the provincial and is India state where they allowed seat in the proportion of it is the population roughly in the ratio of 1 in a million. The seat also the Aspirant were the distributed among the main communities in east the province, and the main communities recognition were the Sikh, Muslim and general. Important committee of the Constituent Assembly when their chairman. Name of the committee and chairman. Committee on the Rules of Procedure. Chairman Dr. Rajendra Prasad. Steering Committee Dr. Rajendra Prasad. And the Finance and the Staff Committee, Ad Hoc Committee on the Nation Flag, Union Constitution Committee, and the Union Power Committee, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, State Committee, Advisory Committee, and the Fundamental Right, Minorities, and the Tribal and the Excluded Area, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, Drafting Committee, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, Crane Detail Committee, and the Aladdi Krishnaswamy Ayar, House Committee, B. Pathabhai Sitaramaya, Order of the Business Committee, K. M. Munshi, Committee on the Function of the Constituent Assembly, G. V. Mavalankar, Minorities Subcommittee, S.C. Mukherjee, Fundamental Right Subcommittee, J.B. Kripalani, North East Foreign Tribal Area and the Assam Executive and the Partiality Executive Area Subcommittee, Gopinath Bordoloi, and Executive and the Partiality Executive Areas other than those in Assam Subcommittee, A.V. Thakkar. The total number of member of the Constituent Assembly were to be 389, of whom the 93 were representatives from the Indian presently state and the 296 from the British Indian, of which the 292 from the governor provincial and one is from the four chiefs commission provincials. After the partition of the Indian, number of the members of the Constituent Assembly came to 299, of whom the 284 were they actually present on the 26th November 1949 and signed on the finally approvable Constitution of India. The Constituent Assembly, which had been elected for the undivided India, held the first meeting on the December 9, 1946 and reassembled on August 14, 1947 as the sovereign constituent assembly for the Dominion of India. Elephant was adopted as the symbol seal of the Constituent Assembly. It took the 2 years, 11 months and the 18 days for the Constituent Assembly to the finalist the Constitution. Objective resolution was the move in the first session of the Constituent Assembly on the December 13, 1946 by the Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, which was adopted after the considerable deliberation and divided in the Assembly on the 22 January 1947. The following objectives were embodied in the resolution: the foster unity of the nation and ensure it is the economic and the political securities, to have a written constitution and to the proclaim India as a sovereign democratic republic, to have the federal form of the government with the distribution of the power between the center and state, to the granting and the secure justice, equality, freedom of the throne, the expression, beliefs, faith, worship, vocation, association, and the action to all the people of India, to the provide to the provide the adequate and safeguard for minorities, backward and the tribal areas and the depressed. The maintain the integrity of the territory of the republic, and it is the sovereign right and land, sea and air according to the justice and the law of the civilized nation. To the attain rightful and the honored place in the world, and the make it is the full and willing contribution to the promotion of the world peace, world peace and the welfare of mankind. The principle of the constitution were outlined by the various committees of the assembly, and there was a general discussion on the report of these committees. The Constituent Assembly appointed the drafting committees with the Dr. B.R. Ambedkar as the chairman on the August 29, 1947. The August 29, 1947 is the chairman of draft drafting committee chairman of Dr. Rajendra Prasad this year, who is with the year year this year is August 29, 1947. To the Scottish, the draft of the next of the Constitution of India prepared by the Constituent Advisor. The Constituent Advisor is the Benegal. The Constitutional Advisor is the Benegal uh, Narsingh Rao. Benegal Narsingh Rao is the Constitutional Advisor, and the now Chairman drafting committee chairman name Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, and this year August 29 and 1947, and the uh, Constitution Advisor Benegal Narsingh Rao. The drafting committee headed by the Dr. B.R. Ambedkar submitted of the draft Constitution of India to the President of the Assembly on the February 21, 1948. The member of drafting committee were the N. Gopalsamy Iyengar, Aladdi Krishnasamy Iyer, and Dr. K. M. Munshi, Syed Muhammad Sadullah, B. L. Meter led, replaced by the N. Madhava Rao. Dr. D. P. Khaitan, replaced on the date in 1948 by the T. T. Krishnam Acharya. The third and the final reading of the third and the final reading of the draft was the complete on the November 26, 1949. November 26 is the draft and the third final reading this year, November 26, 1949. On this date of the signed by the President of the Assembly was the appended to it, and the Constitution was declared as passed. The provision relating to the citizenship election and the Provisional Parliament Act were the implemented with the immediate effect that is the from the 26th November 1949. The rest of the provision of the constitution came into force on January 26, 1950, and this date is the referred to and the constitution as the date of it is the commencement. The 26th November is the observed observed as the Constitution Day. The Constitution Day is the 26th November to celebrate the 125th birth anniversary of the Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. The Government of India Minister of the Social Justice and the Empowerment decided to observe the Constitution Day 26th November right of the 2015. Constitution Day is the 26th November. Different sources of Indian Constitution. The skeleton of the Constitution was derived from the Government of Indian Act 1935 through many the provisions were the important from other constitution of the world other out of 395 articles of the Constitution of the Indian, the text of almost 250 articles are taken from Government of Indian Act 1935 directly or with some the modifications. Some of them are the listed below along with the Government of Indian Act 1935. The Government of Indian Act 1935, this act from the basic the premises or the basics or the blueprint of the Constitution of Indian with the federals of the Indian with the federals of the federal system, office of the governor, emergency power extra. Besides the Constitution of Indian has the borrowed from the Constitution of Britain, law-making procedures rule of the law single citizenship by chemical parliamentary system office of CAT, the Constitution of USA, independence of the judiciary review the fundamental right, removal of the Supreme Court and the High Court judge, preamble and the function of the presidents and the vice president, Constitution of the Canada, the federal. This is the Constitution of British, the Government of Indian Act 1935. The Constitution of Britain, the Constitution of USA, the Constitution of Canada, the Constitution of Ireland, the Weimar Constitution of Germany, and the Constitution of Australia, Constitution of South Africa, Constitution of France, Constitution of former USSR. Law-making procedure rules of law single citizenship by cameral parliamentary system office of CAC. The Constitution of USA, independent of the judicial review the fundamental right, removal of the Supreme Court and the High Court judge, the preamble and the function of the President and the Vice President, Constitution of Canada, Federation with the strong center to the to the provide residency power to the Central Supreme Court Advisory Jurisdiction. The Constitution of Ireland, directive principle of the state policy, method of the presidential election, and the nomination of member to Rajya Sabha by the president. Weimar Constitution of German, provision concerning the suspension of the fundamental right during the emergency. Constitution of Australia, idea of the concurrent list, trade and the commerce provision. Constitution of the South Africa, amendment with the two-third majority in the parliament and the election of the member of Rajya Sabha and on the basis of the proportional representation. Constitution of the France, republican system, principles of the liberty, equality, and the fraternity. Constitution of the former USSR, present is Russia. The fundamental duties, ideals of the justice in the preamble. Important part, articles, and constitution. Article and subject. Part number 1, article number 1 the union and its territory. The part number 1, article number 1 to 4, the union and its territory. Part number 2, article number 5 to 11, the citizenship. Part number 3, fundamental right. Part number 12, definition. Part number 1, article number 1 to 4, the union and its territory. Subject. In the part number 2, the article number 5 to 11, citizenship. The part number 3, fundamental right. This article number 12, the definition, and article number 13 is the law. Consistent with or in the degradation of the fundamental right, the right to equality. Article number 14, the equality before law. Article number 15, prohibition of the discrimination on the ground of the religion, race, caste, sex, or the place of birth. Article 16, equality of the opportunity in the matter of the public employment. Article number 70, abolition of the untouchability. Article number 18, abolition of the titles. Right to freedom. The article number 19, protection of the certain right regarding freedoms of the speech extra. Article number 20, protection in the respect of the conviction for the offense. Article number 21, protection of life and the personal liberty. Article number 21A, right to education. Article number 22, protection against the arrest and the detention in the certain case. Right against exploitation. Article number 23, prohibition of the traffic in the human beings and the forces labor. Article number 24, prohibition of employment of the children in the factories extra. Right to freedom of religion. Article number 25, freedom of the conscience and the free proportional practice and the propagation of religion. Article number 26, freedom to the manage religion affair. Article number 27, freedom as to the payment of the taxes for the promotion of any particular religion. Article number 28, freedoms as to the entrance at the religion instruction or the religion's worship in the certain educational institution. The culture and the educational right. Article number 29, protection of the interests of the minorities. Article number 30, right of minorities to the establish and the administer educational institution. Saving of the certain law. Article number 31A, saving of law providing for the equestrian of the estates extra. Article number 31B, validation of the certain act and the regulation. Article number 31C, saving of law giving the effect to the certain directive principle. Right to the constitutional reminders. Article number 32, reminders for the enforcement of the right conferred by this part. Article number 33, power of the parliament to the modify the right conferred by this part in their application to forces extra. Article number 34, restriction on right conferred by this part with the martial law is in the force in any area. Article number 35, legislation to the give the effect to the provision of this part. Part number 4, directive principle of the state policy. Article number 36, definition. Article number 37, application of the principle contained in this. Article number 38, state to the secure the social order for the promotion of the welfare of the people. Article number 39, the certain principle of policy to be the followed by the state. Article number 39A, equal justice and the free legal aid. Article number 40, organization of the village panchayat, part of the Indian constitution. The part 1 to 4. The article number 41, the right to the work, to the education and to the public assistant in the certain case. Article number 42, provision for the just and the human condition of the work and the maternity relief. Article number 43, living wage extra for workers. Article number 43A, the participation of the worker in the management of industrials. Article number 43B, the state shall the advancer to the promote voluntary formation, autonomous functioning, democratic control and the professional management of cooperating societies. Article number 44, uniform civil code for the citizen. Article number 45, provision for the yearly childhood care and the education to the children below the age of 6 years. Article number 46, the promotion of the educational and the economic interests of the scheduled caste, scheduled tribes and other worker section. Article number 47, duty of the state to the rise the level of the nutrition and the standard of the living and to the improve public health. Article number 48, the organization of the agriculture and the animal husbandry. Article number 48A, the article number 48A, protection and the improvement of the environment and the safeguarding of the forest and wildlife. The Article number 49, protection of the monument and the places and object of the national importance. Article number 50, the separation of the judiciary from the executive. Article number 51, the promotion of the international peace and the security. Part number 4A, the article number 51 is the fundamental duties. Part number 5, the union. Chapter number 1, the executive. The article number 52, the president of India. Article number 53, executive power of the union. Article number 54, election of president. Article number 61, procedure for the impeachment of the president. Article number 63, the vice president of India. Article number 64, the vice president to be the ex officio chairman of the Council of State. Article number 64, the vice president to act as the president or to the discharge his the function during the casual vacancies in the office for during the absence of the president. Article number 66, the election of the vice president. Article number 72, the power of the president to the grant pardons extra and to the suspend limit or the commuted the sentence in the certain cases. Article number 74, the council of the ministers to aid and the advisor president. Article number 76, Attorney General for India. Chapter number 2, Parliament. Article number 79, the Constitution of the Parliament. Article number 80, composition of the Council of the State, Rajya Sabha. Article number 81, composition of the House of People, Lok Sabha. Article number 83, duration of the House of Parliament. Article number 84, qualification for the membership of Parliament. Article number 85, the session of the Parliament, prorogation and the dissolution. Article number 86, right of the President to the address and send message to houses. Article number 87, special address by the President. Article number 88, right of the Minister and the Attorney General as the respect house. Article number 89, the chairman and the deputy chairman of the Council of State. Article number 90, vacation and the resignation of and the removal from the office of deputy chairman. Article number 93, the speaker and the deputy speaker of the House of the People. Article number 94, the vacation and the resignation of the removal from the office of the speaker and the deputy speaker. Article number 95, power of the deputy speaker or other the person to the perform the duties of the office of or to act as the speaker. Article number 98, secretaries of parliament. Article number 99, oath or the affirmation of the member. Article number 100, voting in house, power of house to act the not withstanding vacancies and the quorum. Article number 105, power privileges act of the House of Parliament and the House of Member and the committees thereof. Article number 106, salaries and the allowance of members. Article number 107, the provision as to the introduction and the passing of bill. Article number 108, joint sitting of the board house in the certain cases. Article number 109, special procedure in respect of the money bill. Article number 110, definition of the money bill. Article number 111, assent to bill. Article number 112, the annual financial statement budget. The article number 113, procedure in the parliament with respect to the estimates. Article number 114, appropriation bill. Article number 115, supplementary, additional or the excess grant. Article number 116, votes on account, votes of credit and the exceptional grant. Article number 117, special provision as to the financial bill. Article number 118, rules of the procedure. Article number 119, regulation by law of the procedure in the parliament in the relation to the financial business. Article number 120, language to be the used in parliament. Article number 121, restriction on decision in parliament. Article number 122, court not to the inquired into the proceeding of the parliament. Chapter number 3, legislative power of the president. Article number 123, the power of the president to the promulgated ordinance during recesses of the parliament. Chapter number 4, the union judiciary. Article number 124, the establishment and the constitution of the Supreme Court. Article number 125, the salaries extra of the judge. Article number 126, appointment of acting Chief Justice in the Supreme Court. Article number 127, appointment of the High Judge in the Supreme Court. Article number 128, attendance of the retired judge at the sitting of the Supreme Court. Article number 129, Supreme Court to be the court of record. Article number 130, seat of Supreme Court. Article number 131, original jurisdiction of the Supreme Court. Article number 132, the affiliate the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court in the appear from High Court in the certain cases. Article number 133, appellate the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court in the appeal from the High Court in the regard to the civil matter. Article number 134, appellate the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court in the regard to the criminal matter. Article number 34A, the certificate for the appeal to the Supreme Court. Article number 135, the jurisdiction and the power of the federal court under the existing law to be the accessible by the Supreme Court. Article number 136, the special level to the approval by the Supreme Court. Article number 137, review of the judgment or the order by the Supreme Court. Article number 138, the Englishment of the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court. Article number 141, the law declared by the Supreme Court to be the binding on all the court. Article number 143, power of President to the Council Supreme Court. Article number 144, the civil and the judicial authorities to act in aid of the Supreme Court. Lokpal. And the chapter number 5, Comptroller and the Auditor General of India. Article number 158, the Comptroller and the Auditor General of India. Article number 149, duties and the power of the Comptroller and the Auditor General. Part number 6, the States. Article number 152 to 237, the government at the state level, the executive, the state legislature, and the high court, and the subordinate court. Part number 7. Article number 238. The state in the part B of the first schedule. Article number 8. Part number 8. Part number 8. Article number 239 to 241. The Union Territories. The part number is the 9. Article number 243 to 243. O. The Panchayat. Article number 9A. Part number 9A, the article number 243P to 243 ZG, the municipalities. Part number 9B, the article number 243 ZS to 243 ZT, the cooperative societies. Part number 10. The article number 244 to 244A, the schedule and the tribal areas. Part number 11. Article number 245 to 263, relation between the union and the state. Part number 12. Article number 264 to 300, finance, property, contract and the suit, distribution, revenue between the union and the state, finance, commission, borrowing, property, contract, right, liberties, obligation and the suit. Article number 268. The tax and the rebate and the collected by the central but distributed between the central and the state. Article number 300A, right to property. Part number 12. Part number 13. Article number 301 to 307, trade, commerce and the intercourse within India. Part number 14. The service under the union and the state. Article number 309, 309, recruitment and the condition of the service of the person serving the union of a state. Article number 310, the tenure of the office of the person serving the union or a state. Article number 311, dismissal, removal or the relegation in the rank of the persons employed in civil capacities under the union or a state. Article number 312, all Indian service. Article number 315, the Public Service Commission for the union and for the state. Article number 316, the appointment and the term of the office of member. Article number 317, removal and the suspension of the member of the Public Service Commission. Article number 315, power to make the regulation as to the condition of the service of the members and the staff of the commission. Article number 320, the function of the Public Service Commission. Article number 321, the power to extend function of the Public Service Commission. Article number 323, the report of the Public Service Commission. Part number 14A. Article number 323A, the 323B, tribunal. Article number 15, election. The article number part number 15 is election, and the article number 324, superintendence, direction and the control of the election to be the branch in the election commissioner. Article number 325, no person to be the ineligible for the inclusion in or to the claim to be the included in the special electoral roll of the ground of the religion, race, caste, or sex. Article number 326, election to the House of the People and to the legislative assemblies of the states to be on the basis of adult sufferance. Article number 327, the power of Parliament to make the provision with the respect to the election to legislators. Article number 328, the power of the legislator of the state to make the provision with the respect to the election to such the legislator. Article number 329, the bar to the interference by the court in the electoral matter. Article number, the part number is the 16. Article number 332, 342, the special provision for certain classes. The part number 17, the article number 343 to 351, official language. The part number is 17. The article number 352 to 360, emergency provision. The part number is 19. Miscellaneous. The article number 361 is the protection of the poor processing of the parliament and the state legislature. The article number 363, bar to the interference by the court in the dispute arising out of the certain treaties agreement extra. Article number 363A, recognition granted to the rules of the Indian state to the cases and the bravery purses to be the abolished. The article number 364, special provision as to the court and the aerodromes. Article number 365, effect of the failure to the comply with or to given the effect to direction given by the union. Part number 20. Article number 368, the amendment of the constitution. The part number 21. Article number 369 to 392, temporary, transitional and the special provision, special status of state. Part number 22. Article number 393 to 395, short title, compensation and the authorities tax in the handy and the repair. The part of the Indian Constitution, the article number and the provision. Part number 1, 1 to 4, the union, the provision, the part, article and the provision, preamble, and the part number 1, article number 1 to 4, the union and its territory. Part number 2, 5 to 11, article number citizenship. Part number 3, article number 12 to 35, fundamental right. Part number 14 and article number 36 to 51, DPSP, directive principle of the state policy. The part number 4 or A, article number 51A, the fundamental duties. Part number 5, 52 to 151, the union. The part number 6, article number 152 to 237 is the state. The part number is the 7, article number 238, the state in the part B of the first schedule. Part number 8 and the article number 239 to 242, the union territories. Part number 9 and the article number 243 to 243O, the Panchayat, article number 243O2, the Panchayat, article part number is the 9A, the article number 243P to 243ZG, the municipalities, the part number 9B, article number 243ZH to 243ZT, the cooperative societies, the part number is the 10, the part number is the 10, article number 244 to 244A, the scheduled and the tribal areas, the part number is the 11, the article number is the 245 to 263, relation between the union and the state, part number 12, 264 to 300A, the finance, property, contract and suit, and the part number is the 13, article number is the 301 to 307, the trade, commerce and the intercourses within the territory of India. Part number is the 14, the article number 308 to 323, service under the union and the state. Part number 14A, the article number 323A to 323B, the tribunal. As the part number is the 15, the article number 324 to 329A, election. The part number is the 16, the article number 330 to 342, the special provision relating to certain classes. The part number is the 17, the article number 343 to 351, official language, the article number, the part number is the 18, so article number 352 to 360, emergency provision, the article number is the 19, the part number is the 19, the article number is the 361 to 367, miscellaneous, the article number is the 20, the part number is the 20, the article number 368, amendment of the constitution, the part number is the 21, and the article number is the 369 to 361, temporary, transitional and the special provision, and the part number is the 22, the article number is the 393 to 395, the short title, compensation and the authorities tax in the Hindi and the retail. Lokopal. A Lokopal is the ombudsman in India. It has the jurisdiction over all the members of the parliaments, MPs, the prime minister, with a certain exhibition, minister, and all the civil servant extra. In the cases of the corruption, Lokopal is the employed to the sanction prosecution. The amendment Lokopal and the Loko Yerka Bill 2011 was passed by the Rajya Sabha and the Lok Sabha on the 17th and the 18 December 2013, the respectively. Samajwadi Party offers the bill. The high-level election committees led by the Prime Minister had recommended the appointment for the chairperson and the member of the Lokopal. The, pres- the president approved the appointments. President Ramnath Kovind had the 13 March 2013 the administration and the oath of the office of justice the Pinaki Sandra Ghosh as the country of the first Lokopal. The Justice Ghosh 66 the retired as the Supreme Court judge in the May 2017. He last served as the member of the National Human Rights Commission and SRC. All eight the newly appointed member of the Anti-Corruption Ombudsman Lokopal on the 27 March 2019 took oath the office and they were the administrative oath by the Lokopal Chairperson Justice Pinaki Chandra Ghosh. The former Chief Justice of the different High Court Judge Dilip B. Kosal and the Pradeep Kumar Mohantera and Abhilasha Kumar and the Ajay Kumar Tripathi and the took oath and the judicial member in the Lokopal. Former first woman chief of the Shastra Simhabal SSB and Asena Ramasundram, ex-Maharashtra Chief Secretary Dinesh Kumar Jain and the former IRS officer Mahendra Singh and the Gujarat cadre ex-IS officer Indrajit Prasad Gautam were sworn in as the Lokopal's non-judicial member. Lokoyatta. The initiation of the ombudsman is the typically Sasindrina Visnam. Canteen Abhiyan. The office of the ombudsman has been in the existence since the 1809 is the Sweden. Also in the Finland since 1990, the Denmark 1935, since Sweden is the 1809, and the Norway and the New Zealand 1962. The office of ombudsman has been the existence since in the 1809 in Sweden. Also is the Finland since in the 1990 and the Denmark in 1955 and Norway and New Zealand 1962. Maharashtra is the first state in the Indian to the introduce the concept of the Lokoyatka and the Upa Lokoyatka Act 1971. In a view of the recommendation made by the Administrative Reform Commission headed by the Morarji Desai in 1966, the Maharashtra Lokoyatta institution came into the being from 25 October 1972. Under the Article 243 ZD, the under the Article 243 ZD, the District Planning Commission is the constituent. According to the Article number 243 ZJ, the maximum number of the director of the cooperative societies may be 21. The Article number 352 Proclamation of emergency. Article number 360. The proclamation of the financial emergency. Declaration under the article number 370. Declaration under the article 373. In exercise of the power the conferred by the clause 3 of the article 370 read with the clause 1 of the article 370 of the Constitution of the Indian, the President of the recommendation of the Parliament is the pleased to the declare that as from the 5th August 2019, all clause of the said article number 370 shall the stands to be the operative except the following, who shall read the under the namely 370. All the provision of this the Constitution as the amendment from time to time without any modification or the exception shall apply to the state of Jammu and Kashmir, not the extending anything the contrary content in the article number 152 or article number 308 or any other article of the Constitution or any other provision of the Constitution of the Jammu and Kashmir or any law, document, judgment and the audience ordered by law, rule, regulation and the notification, custom or is the having the force of law in the territory of the Indian or any other instrument treaty or the agreement and the investigate under the article number 363 or the otherwise. Number of articles due to the exercise of the adding and the subtracting, the inaction and the repeal of the various article clause made by the amendment to the Constitution, the confusion, dilemma about the number of the articles has the prevailed, but the sense made by the amendments were named clause of the some articles and the separate articles. Hence the technical, these are only 395 articles in the Constitution of India. LG Shri Girish Chandra Murmu was the first, even the Lieutenant Governor LG of the Jammu and Kashmir, and the second LG in the Sri Manoj Sinha, who the first LG of the Ladakh is the Sri Radhakrishna Mathur. Schedule of Indian Constitution. The Constitution of Indian at the times of it is the adoption had only the 8 schedule, to which the 4 more were the added during the succeeding 65 years. Schedule number 1. 28 states and the 8 union territories with the territorial demarcation. Schedule number 2, part number A, salary and the emolument of the president and government of state. Part number B, omit. Part number C, salary and the emolument of the speaker, deputy speaker of or the chairman, vice chairman of the Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha and the state legislative assemblies or council. Part number D, salary and emolument of the high judge and of the Supreme Court and the High Court. Part number E, salary and emolument of the Comptroller and the Auditor General of India. Third schedule, form of oath and the affirmation of the members of the legislative minister and judge. Fourth schedule, allocation of the seat to the state and the union territories in the Rajya Sabha. Fifth schedule, administration and control of the scheduled areas and estates. Sixth schedule, administration of the tribal areas of the northeastern state. Seventh schedule, distribution of power between the union and the state government, union list, state list and the concurrent list. Eighth schedule, distribution of the 22 language recognition by the constitution. Ninth schedule, validation of the certain act and the regulation. 10th schedule, provision as to the disqualification on ground of defection, anti-defection law introduced by the 52 Constitutional Amendment Act. This schedule allowed followed the test. Development by the 91st Amendment the Constitution in 2003. 11th schedule, the power, authority and the responsibility of the 29 subject over which the Panchayat have the jurisdiction referred to the 73 Art Constitutional Amendment Act. 12th schedule, power, the authority and the responsibility of the municipalities. 18 subject over which municipalities have the jurisdiction referred to the 74th Constitutional Amendment Act. Special feature of the Indian Constitution. Special feature of the Indian Constitution. The Constitution of India is the lengthiest and the most comprehensive of all the written constitution of the world. Originally the Constitution of India consists of the 395 articles divided into 22 parts and the 8 schedules. Unlike the federal Constitution of the USA and the Australia and the Indian Constitution lay down the provision relating to the governmental machinery not only the central but also in the state. The Indian Constitution provides for matter of the administrative deeds. The Constitution contains detailed provision relating to the central-state relation, including the emergency provision. The special status has been given to the Jammu and Kashmir and the some other states such as Nagaland, Mizoram, Assam, Gujarat, etc. And ultimate sovereignty. and number of the articles. Due to the exercise of the adding, the subtracting, the institution of the repeal of the various article clause made by amendment to the constitution, the confused dilemma about the number of the article have the prevailed, but the changes made by the amendment were named the process of some articles and not the articles. And the technical, these are only 395 articles in the Constitution of India. The Constitution of India established the parliament from the government both at the central and in the state. The Indian Constitution, through writing, is the sufficiently flexible. The Constitution declares certain the fundamental right of the individual. It is the unique feature of the Indian Constitution that it is the make is the citizens' duties is a part of the basic law of the land. One of the most important and the unique features of the Indian Constitution is the provision of the directive principles of the state policy, which require a truly welfare state. The Indian Constitution describes the legislative subject on which the Parliament and state legislative can enact law under three lists via the Union list, state list, and the concurrent list. The Indian Constitution, unlike other the federal Constitution, provides for a single unified judicial with the Supreme Court at the apex, the High Court in the middle, and the subordinate court at the bottom. There are provisions in the Constitution to ensure independence of judiciary. The Constitution of India has the balance between the American system of judicial supremacy and the British principle of the parliamentary supremacy. The most remarkable feature of the Indian Constitution is that being the federal constitution is the acquires the unitary character during the times of emergency. Under the Indian Constitution, every adult above the 18 years of age has been given the right to elect representatives for the legislative without the prescribing any qualification based either on sex, property, education, or the like. And this a distinctive feature of the Indian Constitution is that the provides for the establishment of the secular state, regardless of their religions, beliefs. All the Indian citizens enjoy equal right. The state cannot discriminate against anyone of the ground of the religion or caste, nor can it compel anybody to pay the tax for the support of any the particular religion. The Indian Constitution has the special reservation of the seat for the scheduled caste and the tribes in the public appointment and the educational institution and in the union and the state legislated. An outstanding feature of the constitution in the Panchayati Raj, the idea for the organized village Panchayat was provided in the constitution under the Article 40 of the Part 4, which received the constitutional legitimacy through the 73 Amendment of the Indian Constitution. Federal and unitary feature of the Indian Union. is the different from the United States of America because in the United States in the federation in the based on the agreement between the different state and the state have the right to the secret from the union. The Indian constitution has the feature both of the federal and the unitary form of government. Federal features. Distribution of the power between the union and the state has been met as per the three list. The union government as well as the state government of have to the function strictly in the accordance with the constitution. They can then neither alter the distribution of power or power nor the override the detects the constitution. Indian constitution is the entirely written an amendment to it must be the passed by the parliament and if and the amendment affect the federal structure it may be ratified by at least the half the state legislature. Like other federal state, our the country also has and the independent judicial as and the essential feature, unitary feature of the Indian constitution. In the federation, people enjoy dual the citizenship that on the center and of the state to which and they belong. But the Indian constitution provides every Indian with the single citizenship. The most important subject are the included in the union list which has been the allocated to the center. The center can the legislate on the subject in the concurrent list. Residuary power of belong to the center. Single constitutional framework has been the provide for the center as well as for the state. The proclamation of the national emergency can the immediately turn the federal system of Indian into the unitary one. In a federation is that should get the equal representation, inspection of it is the size or the population, but in the Rajya Sabha in Indian state are the represented on the basics of the population. Beside the president has the power to the nominate 12 member to the Rajya Sabha. The governor of the state are the elected by the president and they the continue to hold the office only during his the place here. The Indian constitution provides for the single jurisdiction in the single system of the civil and the criminal law and the common all Indian service. The authority of the comptroller and the auditor general and the chief electoral commissioner uniformly previous over the union as well as state. The PM board. The preamble to the Constitution is that the object which the Constitution seek to the establish and the promote, and also aid the legal interpretation of the Constitution, where the language is the found ambiguous. The ideas the ideas embodied in the objective resolution in the faithfully reflected in the preamble to the Constitution, which as the amendment in the 1976, the summaries the aim and the object of the Constitution. Text of the preamble. We the people of India, having the solemnly resolved to the constitute Indian into the sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic and the secular or to all the citizens. Justice, social, economic and political liberty of the uh, through expansion, belief, faith and the worship and the equality of the status and the opportunity, and to the promote among them all fraternity, assuring the dignity of the individual and the unity and the integrity of the nation. In our the Constituent Assembly, this the 26th day of the November 1949 to hereby adopt, enact and given to overless ourselves this Constitution. The preamble specify the source of the authority, that is the people of India, the system of a government. The objective to be the attained by the political system and the that of the adaptation and the enhancement of the constitution. Through a preamble is not the enforceable in the court of law. They provide educate to the understanding and the interpretation of the Constitution. In the case of the doubt, the Supreme Court has the referred to the preamble to the elucidated value aspect of the Constitution. In a case, Virubari case, the Supreme Court had that the preamble was not the part of the Constitution, but later in the Kesavananda Bharatiya case, it declared that this was the part of the Constitution. The lapse of the lapse of paramount principle. When the Indian Independence Act 1947 was the first, it declared the lapse of the suzerainty paramountcy of the Quran in the section 7(1)(b) of the Act. As the form of the appointed, they the suzerainty of his the majority of the Indian state lapse, and with it all the treaties and the agreement in the force at the death of the passing of this the act between his the majesty and the rules of Indian state, all the function accessible by his the majesty at the death with the respect to the Indian states, all the obligation of his majesty existing at that day that toward the Indian state of the rules thereof, and all the power, right, authorities, or the jurisdiction accessible by his magistrate at the date in or in the relation to the Indian state by the treaty grant uses supperness or the otherwise of the state the situated within the geographical boundaries of the dominion of Indian, all the numbering 553, save the Hyderabad, Kashmir, Bahalpur, and the Junagadh, and the NWF Northwest for entire state, the Chitral, Chitralpura, and the Dhir Swan, and the Amt had decided to the dominion of Indian by the 15th August 1947, that is the before the appointed day itself. Integration and the merger Indian state. Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel and the V.P. Menon played the most important role in the integration and the merger of the Indian state. The main objective of the shaping the Indian state into the suitable or the feasible administrative unit was the sought to be achieved by the threefold process of the integration known as the Patel the after the Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel minister in the charge of the Home Affairs. 216 seats were the margin into the respective provincial geographical continuous connected to them. And these margin states were included in the territories of the state in the Part B in the first schedule of the Constitution. The process of the margin start with the margin of Odisha and the Chhattisgarh state with then the provincials of Odisha in January 1, 1948. 61 states were the conferred into the certainly administrated areas and the included in the Part C of the first schedules of the Constitution. The third form of the integration was the consolidation of the groups of the state into new viable units known as the Union of States. As the 275 states were the integrated into 5 Union, Madhya Bharat, Patiala, and the East Punjab state, Union Rajasthan, Surashtra, and the Travancore, Kochi. These were the included in the state in the Part B of the first schedule. These other three states included in the Part B were Hyderabad, Jammu and Kashmir, and Mysore. Jammu and Kashmir handed to the Indian on October 26, 1947, and so it was included as the state in the Part B by the government of India agreed to take the association subject to the confirmation by the people of the state and the Constituent Assembly of Jammu and Kashmir. The Constituent Assembly subsequently confirmed it in the November 1956. Tense after the Constitution of the Jammu in the November 1956, tense after the Constitution of Jammu and Kashmir was drafted, which came into the force on the 26th January 1957. Earlier, on the 15th February 1954, the Assembly State Assembly, a member who were the present cast the unanimous for the ratifying the state association to India. Hyderabad and then formally access to the Indian, but the Nizam issue. But the Nizam issue to the proclamation recognizing the necessity of the entering into in the constitutional relationship with the Union of the Indian and the accepting the Constitution of Indian subject to the ratification by the Constituent Assembly by the and the Constituent Assembly by the state wrapping in this. It is the not here that the Ras Rajpramukhas of the five union as well as the rules of Hyderabad, Mysore, Jammu and Kashmir or the adopt the constitution of the India by the proclamation. The process of the integration culminated in their Constitution 7th Amendment Act 1956, which abolished Part B state as a class and that included all the states in the Part A and B in one list. The special provision in the Constitution relating to the Part B state were the consequently omitted the Indian state thus lost the identity and become the uniform political organization among bodies in the Constitution of India. The Union and it is the territories. Article number 1. Article number 1. A lie down that India. A lie down that India. That is Bharat. A lies down that India, that is Bharat, shall be in the union of state. The territory of Indian shall consist of number 1 the territories of the state. Number 2 is the union territories specified in the first schedule and the number 3 such other the territories and the may be acquired. Article number 2. The constitution described the Indian as the union of state, not the federation of the state. Union of the Indian is not the result of and the agreement, nor has any the state uh, the right to the secede from it. The federation is called the union of the state because it is the intractable. The union territories are not the included in the union of the state, whereas the expansion territories of the union, including the state, the union territories, and the such other the territories as may be acquired by India. The state and their the territories are specified in the first schedule to the constitution. The constitution empowered the parliament for the administration or the establishment of new state. Article number 3. Provides the parliament may by the law admit new state into the union of Indian or the established new state on such the term the condition as it deems fit. The parliament has the admit the French settlement of the Pondicherries, Kariakal, Mahe and the Yenam. Pondicherry, Kariakal, Mahe and Yenam. The Portuguese settlement of Goa, Diu and Daman and the Sikkim extra into the Indian after the independence. Article number 4. The constitution empowered the parliament to form a new state by the alternating boundaries of the existing state, Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh. The central government on the October 31, 2019 formally implement legislation approved by the parliament in the August 2019 that split the restive state of the Jammu and Kashmir into the two union territories UTs. This is the first time that the state has been downsized into UTs. The federally controlled territories of Jammu and Kashmir and the Ladakh have taken the total number of the UTs United Union territories to 9 and brought down the number of the state in the Indian to 28. Jammu and Kashmir will have and the elected legislative assembly and the chief minister on the lines of the Puducherry, while the Ladakh will be the government by the LC and have two hill development council. The Jammu and Kashmir Legislative Council, the upper house of the state legislative, was already abolished on the October 17, 2019 by 2019 as per the section 57 of the Jammu and Kashmir Reorganization Act 2019, which reorganization to the state into two union territories of Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh. The new union territories of Ladakh consist of the two districts of Kargil and Leh. LG. What means of LG? LG is the Sir Girish Chandra Murmu was the first even Lieutenant Governor LG of the Jammu and Kashmir, and the second LG is the Sri Manoj Singha. Who is the first LG of Ladakh is the Sri Radhakrishna Mathur. The first LG the Ladakh in Radhakrishna Mathur. Margin of Daman and Diu and Dadar and Nagar Haveli UTs. Margin of Daman and Diu and Dadar and Nagar Haveli. The Parliament of December 3, 2019 passes a bill in the March two union territories Daman and Diu and the Dadar and Nagar Haveli into one unit. The Rajya Sabha passed the and Nagar Haveli and Daman and Diu merger of the Union Territory Bill 2019 through the voice vote. The Lok Sabha had already passed the bill on November 27, 2019. The Mars UT will be the name as Dadra and Nagar Haveli and Daman and Diu headquarters Daman. Organization of state. A bill seeking to the create a new state or the alter boundaries or the executing state can be introduced in either house of the parliament only on the recommendation of the president. The president referred the state reorganization bill. The state legis- legislator concerned for it is the opinion fixing a the time limit. Parliament is not the bound to the accept or the act the upon and view of the state legislated on the state reorganization bill. The state reorganization bill requires a simple majority in the both house of the parliament. It is not necessary to the obtain the views of the legislature of the union territories before before a bill the effective their boundaries or name is the introduced. Establishment of the new state. Andhra Pradesh, October 1, 1953. Maharashtra, May 1, 1960. Gujarat, May 1, 1960. Nagaland, December 1, 1963. Haryana, November 1, 1966. Himachal Pradesh, January 25, 1971. Meghalaya, January 21, 1972. Manipur, January 21, 1972. Tripura, January 21, 1972. Sikkim, April 26, 1975. Mizoram, February 20, 1987. Arunachal Pradesh, February 20, 1987. Goa, May 30, 1987. Chhattisgarh, November 1, 2000. Uttarakhand, 27 state and the November 9, 2000. Jharkhand, November 15, 2000. Telangana, June 2, 2014. The State Reorganization Act 1956. Reorganized the boundaries of the different states to the establish the new state of the Kerala and the merge the former state of the Madhya Bharat, Pepsu, Surashtra and the Travancore, Kursi, Ajmer, Bhopal, Courts and the Vindhya Pradesh in other adjoined state and thus the 14 state and the 6 union territories were the established in India. The Bombay Reorganization Act 1960 divided the state of the Bombay to establish two states of Gujarat and Maharashtra. In 1962, Nagaland was created as a separate state. In 1966, Punjab was divided into Punjab and Haryana. An union territory of the Himachal Pradesh was named the state the Himachal Pradesh by an act of the 1970. State of Manipur, Tripura, Meghalaya and the union territories of Mizoram and the Arunachal Pradesh were established in the 1971. Later, Mizoram and the Arunachal Pradesh statehood in the 1986. The Sikkim was made part of the Indian by the 36th Amendment of the Constitution. In the 1987, Goa was made as a separate state of the Union. Chhattisgarh came into the existence on 1st November 2000. Uttaranchal, now the Uttarakhand, came into the existence on the 8th November 2000. The state Jharkhand, which was established on the 15th November 2000, is the 28th state of India. Bifurcating Andhra Pradesh, Telangana came into the being the 20 zone 2014 as the 29th state. It is the outcome of the 25th Lok Sabha. The Constitution application of Jammu and Kashmir Order 2019. In the exercise of the power conferred by the clause number 1 of the article number 370 of the Constitution, the President with the consequence of the government of the state of the Jammu and Kashmir the places to make the follow order. This order made the call the Constitution application on Jammu and Kashmir Order 2019. Number 2. It shall come into the force at once and shall the 3 supersede the Constitution application to Jammu and Kashmir Order 1954 as the amendment from times to times. All the provision of the Constitution as the amendment from times to times shall apply in the relation to the state of Jammu and Kashmir, and the exception and the modification subject which the shall show. all the provision of the Constitution as the amendment from time to time shall the apply in the relation to the state of the Jammu and Kashmir and the exhibition and modification subject to which they shall show thus apply shall be as the follow. The article number 376 there shall be the added by the following the courses, namely for the purpose of the constitution as in the applies in relation to the state of Jammu and Kashmir, reference to the constitution or to the provision thereof shall be the construct as a reference to the constitution or the provision thereof as the apply in the relation in the said state. Reference to the person for the times being the reorganized by the representative on the recommendation of the Legislative Assembly of the state as the Sadari Riyasat of Jammu and Kashmir, acting on the advice of the Council of the Minister of the state for the times being in the office, shall be the construct as a reference to the governor of the Jammu and Kashmir. Reference to the government of the state that be the construct as the including reference to the governor of the Jammu and Kashmir, acting on the advice of the council of the minister, and in the proviso to the clause the 3 of the article 370 of the constitutional, the expansion constitutional assembly of the state referred into in clause the shall read to legislative assembly of the state. Citizenship. The Constitution of the Indian provides for the single and the uniform citizenship for the whole of the Indian. Citizenship of the Indian was granted to the every person who the domiciled in the territory of the Indian at the commencement of the Constitution and who was born in the territory of Indian, or either of those the parent was born in the territory of the Indian, or who had been the ordinarily residing in the territory of Indian for not less than 5 years immediately preceding the commencement of the Constitution. Indian citizens have the following the right under the Constitution which the alliance do not possess. Some of the fundamental right enumerated in the Part 3 of the Constitution, that is the Article 15, 16, 19, 29, 30. Only citizens are the eligible for the office of the President, Vice President, Judge of the Supreme Court or the High Court, Attorney General, the Governor of the State, Member of the Legislative, extra. Only citizens have the right to vote. Enemy alliance are not the entitled to be the benefit of the procedure provision in the process 1, 2 of the Article 22 relating to arrest the detention. The Citizenship Act 1955 provide for the acquisition of the Indian citizenship in the following way. The general, every person born in the Indian or on or the after the January 1950 shall be a citizen of the Indian if the either of his the parents was the citizens of India at the times of his birth. The person who was the outside Indian born or 6th January 1950 shall be the citizen of the Indian by the descent if his father was the citizen of the Indian at the times of the person's birth. A person can apply for the get registered as the citizens of Indian by the compliant authority if they satisfy the condition laid down. The person resisting in the Indian for more than 7 years and having adequate knowledge of the constitutionally recognized Indian language can seek the citizenship by the naturalization provided he is not the citizen of the country where Indian citizen are the prevented from the becoming citizen by the neutralization. If any new territory become the part of India, the persons of the territory become the citizens of India. Citizenship Indian may be lost by the renunciation of the citizenship, termination of citizenship. If a citizen of India voluntarily acquires the citizenship of another country, deprivation of citizenship by the Governor of India. Citizenship Amendment Acts CA 2019. The Citizenship Amendment Act 2019 has been passed by the Parliament with the Rajya Sabha approving it on the December 11, 2019. 125 members support the legislative while the 105 opposed. The House also negated the amendment by the opposition parties with the approving the bill. The bill was passed by the Lok Sabha on the December 9, 2019. 311 members had voted in the favor and the 80 members opposed it. The bill amended the Citizenship Act 1955 to make the illegal migrant of 6 communities from the Afghanistan, Bangladesh and Pakistan eligible for Indian citizenship. The communities are the Hindus, Sikhs, Buddhists, Jains and Christians. The bill sought to relax the requirement of the residence in the Indian for the citizenship by the naturalization for the 11 years to 5 years for the person belonging to the same religions and 3 countries. Those provisions of the bill will not apply on the tribal area of Assam, Meghalaya, Mizoram and Tripura included in the 6th schedule of the constitution as well as the areas which are the regulated through the inner line permit region, which include the Arunachal Pradesh, Mizoram and Nagaland. The inclusion of the Manipur in the inner line permit was also announced on December 10, 2019. Only those the migrant from the appropriate countries will be the eligible for the Indian citizenship who entered Indian on before December 13, 2014. The President accorded his assent to the bill on the December 12, 2019. CAF now become the CAA, Citizenship Amendment Act. The provision of the giving citizenship of the Indian on the basis of the citizenship of mother was introduced in the 1992 Indian Citizenship Amendment Act 1992, the fundamental right. six fundamental rights have been provided by the Constitution. Right to equality, right to liberty, particular freedoms, right to against exploitation, right to freedom of religions, culture and education right, right to constitutional reminders. Article number 14. Article number 14 of the Constitution. Article number 40 of the Constitution provides that the shall that the state shall not deny any the person equality before the law or equal the protection of the law within the territory of India. Right to property. The right to acquire, hold, and then dispose of the property has been the considered to be the fundamental right, but it continues to be either legal or the constitutional right. Article number 300A. Exhibition or to the prevention of the equality before law allowed by the Indian Constitution are the president or the governor of the state is not the answerable to any court for the exercise and the performance of the power and the duties of his office. No criminal proceeding can be the initiated or the constituted against the president or the governor in any court during his the term of office. No civil process, civil proceeding in which the relief in the claim against the president or the governor of the state can be the initiated during his term of office in any court in respect of any act done by him in his the personal capacity without the prior notice of 2 months. The above the immunities do not bar. One is the impeachment proceeding against the president, suit or other the appropriate proceeding against the government of the Indian or the government of the state. Acceptation acknowledged by the Committee of Nations in the every civilized country in the favor of the foreign sovereign and the ambassador. The grantee of the equal the protection is the grantee of the equal treatment of the person in equal circumstance permitting the definition in the different circumstance. Article number 15 of the Constitution is that the state shall not the discrimination against the any citizen on the ground only of the religions, race, caste, sex, place of birth, or any of them. No citizen shall own the ground only on the religion, race, caste, sex, place of the birth, or any of them be the subjected to any disability, liberty, and the restriction or the condition with the regard to the access to the shop, public restaurant, hotels, the places of the public entertainment, of the use of the well, the tanks, the bathing and cart and road, and the place of the public resort maintained wholly or the partly out of the state found or dedicated to the use of the general public. Nothing in this the article shall the prevent the state from the making any special prevention for the women, children, or the any socially and the educationally backward classes. Article number 16 grantees the equality opportunity in matter. In the public employment, it is said that there shall be the equality of the opportunity for all the citizens in the matter relating to the employment or the appointment to any office under the state. No citizen shall, on the grounds only of the religions, race, caste, sex, descent, place of the birth of any of them, be intelligible be ineligible for any employment under the state. The Mandal Commission case. A nine-judge bench of the Supreme Court has the laid down in the Indira Saunia case, popularly known as the Mandal Commission case, regarding the reservation in the government employment debt under the Article 60 under the Article 16A. Provision can be the made in the favor of the backward classes in the matter of the employment of the executive order also. Backward class of the citizen is not the defined in the constitution. A case may also the constitute a class. The backwardness contemplated by Article 16(4) is the mainly social. It need not be the both social and the educational income or the external of the property. It can be the taken can be the taken as the measure of the social adventure, and so then the basics of the creamy layer of the given the cards that can be the actual the reservation contemplated in the article number 16(4) should not be the excess 50%. Reservation of the post under the article 16(4) contrary to the inertial reservation only and cannot the extend to the providing reservation in the promotion. The 77 Amendment Act.